Welcome to another episode of the podcast. My name is Rich Wilkerson, and I'm so glad that you're joining us on Mature Me, the podcast where we are not just working on growing old, but we're trying to grow up. And today I'm actually really excited about this episode because one of the things that I've always wanted to be able to talk about, never really had an outlet or a space for it, and I'm glad that we and lifestyle, getting healthy. You know, the Bible talks about the fact that our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. And I've just really learned over the last, I think it probably began for me back in 2016, just that when my body is healthy, how it impacts the way that I think. When I get impacted in the way that I think, my feelings change. And of course, my spirit, begins to grow. And so today I'm excited about it because I am joined with some incredible people. I've got Dakota Duron. This is my friend Corey Berlin, Omar Vazquez, and none other than Justin Roethlingshoefer. That's a mouthful of a name. But the reason why you guys are here with me today is because just like hours ago, we just finished, for me, my very first time ever, the Miami Marathon, ladies and gentlemen. 26.2 miles.
Congratulations.
And we all participated. Got the medal to prove it. I can't wear this though because I think this is a satanic symbol, the sun. So I'm not sure if I'm going to wear that. Corey, on the other hand, he's on the journey of his faith.
He's wearing it proud.
To the pure, all things are pure, I guess. But everyone here ran it. We all ran the full. Dakota.
I ran the half.
Did the half.
But I did go to church, unlike you guys this morning. I barely made it. I didn't run the best half in the world. I didn't train for this race, but I made it.
Bro,
and then
you went out there like a
cold
dog.
turkey.
What's the most you've ever ran in your life that you can think of in the last year?
In the past year, I've run once. I ran 4 miles about 3 months ago.
And you went out and ran 13 miles.
All my brothers are running it. These guys are running it.
Yeah.
I was like, let's try it. First eight was great.
That'll
there
preach.
You go.
That'll preach.
And then right there at mile 8, my knees they just didn't work anymore.
The Tin Man, bro.
Yeah. So basically walking, jogging, but we finished, baby. And it was fun.
What was your time for 13 miles?
2 hours and 55 minutes.
My man.
Come on, baby.
My man.
Sub 3.
Congrats, bro.
Hey, but you do sling bombs at the VOUS Bowl.
Sling bomb.
Yes.
Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, he's more of a quarterback than he is a runner. But hey, what we're into around here is getting it done. My first marathon.
Yeah.
Corey is a professional marathon runner. How many marathons have you run, Corey?
Today, Rich, was my 11th marathon.
It's your 11th marathon. And the cool thing about this being 11 is this was your slowest marathon. Talk about how that felt and why it was your slowest marathon.
So yes, today I came in just for the marathon. Probably, how long has it been since we started talking about this? All of us running the full marathon together.
4 months?
At least 4 months.
So about 4 months ago, Rich, Dakota, Dez, and Denny Rodney kind of got the bug, wanted to try this marathon. They had run some half marathons, or Rich had run some half marathons. So the rest of the guys, it was going to kind of be their first experience.
Yep.
Some of them trained a little more than others, right, Dakota?
True.
So we did a little. I coached them up a little bit, got them on a little plan, and told them I'd come in if they were up for it. I was going to come in and pace them through this through the full marathon. And today, man, we did it.
And real quick, what did we finish at?
We finished barely by the skin of our teeth under 5 hours. Sir.
Let's go.
Yes.
Under 5.
Let's go.
That's the goal.
By the grace of God.
I'll take it. In a moment, we're going to kind of clarify why we were at that time. There's some injuries and some lack of training, but nonetheless, man, we're about getting it done. What's your fastest marathon?
My fastest marathon to date was in Chicago. It was 3 months ago, and I ran a 2 hour and 43-minute marathon.
Wow.
He ran the full faster. I ran the half. All good. That hurt him a little bit.
You didn't have
Bro,
to.
you didn't have to do that.
No, I had to highlight that.
Hey, but humility
I had to highlight
is
that.
about maturing.
Amen.
Bro, he ran the full marathon.
2 hours and what?
43 minutes.
How do you feel about that?
That's a man.
And Dakota, tell everybody.
Hey, that's maturity. Like, what?
That's a man of
No,
God
that's
right there.
incredible.
Hey, but explain it. Maturity. I'm almost 45. How old are you, bro?
I'm 29. Just keep going, Corey.
Dang, man, just rubbing it in.
Not
bro.
making it
What was
better.
the experience of pacing somebody today, taking it slower? Was that hard for you not to just try to go off, or was it actually fulfilling
It was mentally
experience?
very challenging. That's what I just told my wife, Stacy. I told her, I said it was mentally more challenging than anything I've ever done.
Wow.
Physically, it wasn't. I don't feel too bad. Kept the heart rate down. Stayed with Rich. Stayed with Justin. But mentally, I think just the fact that you're not able to
Take
it's
off.
muscle memory. Yeah, it's muscle memory. You can't just take off like you used to or like you normally do. And so, but being able to run with these guys was just phenomenal. We had a great time. We were out there. Of course, everybody knows Rich on the course, so we had a lot of shout outs. But man, it was just great. It was great. We had a great time.
Sometimes going slower
Harder.
is harder than going
Yeah,
faster.
that's true.
Yeah.
Today was the case for sure.
There we go. We're just grateful for you. My friend Justin sitting over there. In a moment, we're going to talk about how important Justin was, because me, Corey, and Justin finished this thing together. But Justin, how you feeling after our right under 5 hours? Talk about it a little bit.
To be honest, it's my hips are what's got me. It's like the hockey hips were not built to run distance, and so it's like they're. That's really the only thing that's like really got me going. Otherwise, my lungs felt great. The heat got me a little bit.
It was hot today. It's hot right now. We're outside. It's hot.
Halfway
We
point.
should talk about the heat, because that's the unsung enemy and evil
So true. Of the
about
Miami
this marathon and living in Miami.
Well, and then the big thing too is that we always run normally, Omar. We usually kick off at like 5:30.
Yeah.
Today we started running at 6:30. All of
Yeah.
that stuff makes such a big difference.
Massive
As we're
difference.
getting going. This is Omar. Omar is my run partner. We've been running this whole entire fall. I guess of
18 weeks,
2023,
pretty much.
from September.
Yeah.
And you got it done today. Talk about your experience.
What was amazing was when we started training and what we finished at today, I did not think that would be possible when we first started. When we first started, one of my biggest probably weaknesses is peer pressure. I'll do anything. And we've done
around this guy.
especially around Rich, but as Corey was saying, we've done the half marathon twice now, and always when we're finishing and I see these guys continuing down to do the full marathon, I was like, there is no way that I would ever want to do that again and do the full. So to complete that today, I'm still shocked about it. I don't believe it's real.
You did it.
Huge accomplishment.
It's a huge deal.
You totally did it.
For you, I know you said in 2016, it's like kind of paradigm shift for you. Fitness is going to come into your life. Today, you want to do a full podcast episode on fitness. Why has that changed your life? Why are you?
Well, you know what's so funny sitting here with you right now? 2016, Dakota and I are in Shreveport, Louisiana, and he comes over to the house and he's got one of these Gator. Is that what it's called? A golf cart?
Yeah, Rhino Gator.
Rhino
Same
Gator.
thing. Souped up golf cart.
And I'm by nature like a pretty like cautious, safe person. I don't actually take a lot of. I'm not like I wear my seatbelt. I don't drive fast. Omar drives like. It's definitely sinful behavior the way you drive.
It's another weakness.
Fast and Furious.
That's a whole
My
thing,
wife
bro.
almost left me before we got married.
Yeah.
Because of my driving. I got a few speeding tickets.
Brother,
Don't look it up, my official record.
The
It's
way that
shameful.
you drive is frightening.
I just feel like I
real
wanna get
10
to
and
where
2
you need to
safe
go.
guy. But Dakota comes over with this like golf cart. And I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I was like on a wave runner. It's me and him. And I'm like, oh, we're like whipping around in this thing. And I thought I could like do donuts and stuff. Bro, this thing's top heavy.
Yep.
I flipped this thing and I was so scared, you guys. I thought I killed Dakota. Like, we flipped and I popped up. Remember, people came running
Yep.
to the scene. This is all.
People pulled off the road. They saw us.
I was so scared. It was Thanksgiving 2016. People pulled over, like they saw the whole thing happen. I popped up. I'm like, I'm good. But as we started walking back to the house to get help, my whole neck just locked up on me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I went into like 2 to 3 months of just pain like I've never had before in my life. And I started going to see a chiropractor. I started talking to some friends. And a lot of what I discovered, which I think is a good lead in, is that so often health is measured by the speed of what in which you can recover.
That's
And it took me so long to recover because
Sure.
my body was just unhealthy. I was preaching 5 services on a weekend. I found myself waking up on Mondays, laying on my bathroom floor with the shower running for hours in the dark. Like it took me so much to get going. And I met a good friend of ours, Manning Sumner, who owns a great gym here in Miami. And it just began to change my life. And even now today, as I talk to other ministers and pastors, I just talk about the weight of the call so often demands you to be physically fit. That so many people are going through anxiety and depression, and it's actually it's not actually spiritual warfare that they're in. They're actually in physical warfare that they haven't got themselves healthy to a place to carry that which God's called them to carry. And so I think physicality and trying to get healthy. Because for me, like, working out is not about vanity. I heard my friend Robert one time say, it's not vanity, it's just sanity. It just keeps me sober-minded. But when we ran, I guess it was 2 years ago, the half marathon, kind of like how you did, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then last year we went and ran the half marathon. And then as I'm 39 right now. But this summer I just started kind of talking about, like, I want to do some things before I turn 40. And one of those things being, I want to run a marathon before I turn 40, which is so opposite of what I've ever said. I used to always make fun of people. I'm like, you run for fun? Like, they're running in hell. What like, I'm not gonna run, bro.
It's not fun. It's still not fun.
Running, I feel like hell is like people on fire on treadmills, you know? But we kind of made this commitment. And then what happened to me, which I think is kind of interesting as we're talking about this, is that Omar and I were out running. Justin ran a lot of runs with us. But 5 weeks ago, I went out and ran 18 miles and my foot swelled up, went to the doctor right before Christmas, and I discovered I had a stress fracture, which was one of the most disappointing things I've heard. I'm like, dude, I don't think I can do this. I hit up Corey. Corey's like, man, you can do it. But then really Justin was the voice that was like, brother, we're getting this thing done. Yep. You're gonna be okay. And for the last 5 weeks, I haven't ran at all. So that's why I'm kind of saying maybe my time wasn't what it should be, but I haven't ran in 5 weeks, went out and ran 26 today. But Justin was the one who really started working on me, and maybe just talk about some of the stuff we were doing and maybe what your thought process was on the rehab of it or the therapy of it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a stress fracture, a lot of it comes from repetitive bouts of movement and force and absorption. And quite often your foot, your knee, your ankle, your hip, that's where a lot of your stress fractures are going to come from. And so for us, the most important thing right away was to still keep that conditioning level up, because you had built such a great base, you had such a great capacity, and we wanted to ultimately eliminate a lot of the pounding, a lot of the force that your body was having to do. So we put you onto bikes, we put you in the pool, we put you in a lot of places that you weren't going to have the same force absorption on that foot, but still being able to push you from a cardiovascular standpoint and being able to get you into certain zones from a heart rate position. We actually put you on the altitude trainer, so we were able to start actually reducing the amount of oxygen that you were having, and typically you're looking at 22% oxygen in the atmosphere, but we were operating at about 8 to 9% oxygen when we were biking. So really having to increase again that capacity to be able to do that without having the wear and tear on your foot. And praise God, but we were able to just not have, the foot was a non-issue today, which is really great. And think about that now going forwards, even forget about just completing the marathon, but now not having 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months of rehab just to be able to go up there and drop fire on the pulpit every Sunday. And so that's, I think, something that is pretty impactful. And I think for a lot of people out there, we so often think that we're praying for this miracle, we're praying for capacity, but whatever you're called for is bigger than what you're praying for. But what you're praying for, you're just not prepared for. Whew. You haven't done the work yet. You haven't leaned in. You haven't created capacity. Because at the end of the day, performance, I've ultimately defined it as the ability or desire and capacity to ultimately behave intentionally and consistently to get yourself to a level equal to your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional potential. But we don't have a desire issue. Everybody wants to be able to run the marathon. Everybody wants to be able to have the platform. Everybody wants to be able to speak and have people follow them. Yep. But you just don't have the capacity because you haven't put the work in. You haven't put the time in. You haven't put the reps in. You haven't really stewarded this physical being that carries the Holy Spirit well enough for God to be able to say, I trust you because I've given you a calling. Yep. And if I haven't tested it, I can't trust it. And so now until you put the work in, until you put the time in, until you put these reps in, we're constantly sitting in this state, sometimes of frustration.
Yep, absolutely. I think, Corey, one of the things I found like absolutely radical, and maybe Omar, you can weigh into it as well, is like when I started training for a marathon, like I like what we're talking about here, like the only way you can grow your capacity is by challenging it.
Yeah.
But sometimes we think like running, I heard this great analogy that like there's two ways to mow a grass. You could get a lawnmower, or you could go get a razor blade and try to cut it. Taking a razor blade, they both will work, but one is much harder and not necessary.
Right.
When I started running, I thought like I had to just go out there and just kill myself.
Yeah, that's good.
But really what we started finding out, and what Justin helped me out discover, is like just building this whole aerobic state of running what they call easy runs. And maybe just talk about that as someone's watching right now, like how you build a base. Your capacity doesn't grow overnight. It really grows over time.
Yeah, so the big thing, Rich, is, and you've said it, like you said it before, is go longer, go slower. And that easy run mindset, that 80-20 mindset that we talk about as runners, is 80% of your runs should be at a conversational pace, a pace where you can keep your heart rate low and work in that zone 2 level, which is your aerobic capacity, and grow that. Because if you're aerobic, we talk about it's like building an engine in a car. The bigger the engine, the faster it's going to go when you push it at that pace. So 80% of those runs are slow enough to where you're just building that aerobic base, building that engine, and then 20% of those runs are when you test that engine. You do speed work, you do marathon pace work, and if that aerobic base is bigger, and if that aerobic base has been built over a long period of time, then when you get in a marathon or you get in a half marathon, you can put in those faster miles because you have a bigger engine to pull from.
So today we were running, I think my average pace was 11:17. Any idea what your average pace was?
It wasn't like that for the first 8 miles, so can I answer that way?
Where were you at today, Omar?
I was at 11:40.
11:40.
So a little
There you
slower
go,
there.
Omar. Your fastest pace in a marathon was what?
Fastest pace in a marathon was, I believe, 6:09 or 6:10.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. I don't know if I could run 1 mile
That's what I'm saying.
at that pace that he did 26 at. Who are you?
I think it's interesting
How?
what you said whenever you introduced
Jeez.
Corey. It's like, Corey's a professional runner. True, but
not
he's also
really.
a professional in something else first.
Yeah, totally.
He's picked this up in his life. I think it's interesting. You have 3 beautiful boys. You're married. You have a job. Omar, you have 3 kids, married, running a dentist, 2 locations now, shout out. Why has it been for you guys something that you say, you know what, I'm going to get up before my family.
Yeah.
I'm going to have this discipline. You already have so much on your plate. Why do this? What has it brought to your life?
I think, and I'm sure it's the same for Corey, that I never wanted my exercising to take away time from my family. So I'm like, when am I going to get it in? I'm going to be at work all day, and then I'm going to get home and tell my wife, hey, I'm going to be gone for 2 hours.
Yeah.
No, so I started to wake up early, and I go to the gym usually like at 5:30, and that's also when we would do our runs like early in the morning, which is why I think today the sun just crushed me on that second half, because I am not used to running in that. I would get to a hydration station
The sun today, man.
and just pour
Forgive
water
the
on my
sun.
body.
That's a word for you.
For real.
Forgive the sun.
But I started to notice how when I would be disciplined in one area of my life, I started to see that intentionality and that discipline go across
There you go.
all the areas of my life. And I felt so good coming home from the gym, having exercised already,
Yep.
when most of the people that I know are still sleeping. And then I felt, I guess dopamine has, parts of it. We do cold plunging sometimes, and they talk about that a lot. I felt just fulfilled in who I was and felt accomplished already early in the morning, that when I got home to my girls and to my wife, I felt full in myself and more able to give to them what I wanted to give them, which is literally just me. That's all they want. They want more of me, and they don't necessarily want toys, even though they do sometimes. But all they want is daddy, and so they call me, and I'm excited to go to them.
No, I totally agree, Omar. And Dakota, you joked and Rich joked about being a professional, but professionals, that is their job, and they have all day to work on their craft, whether it's running or whether it's another professional sport. I have a job. I'm a physical therapist, and like you said, my most important job is being a husband, being a father. I have 3 boys, and they look at everything that I'm doing. My oldest Bryce is 10 years old, and then Colby and Caleb are 8 years old. They're twins, and even when I don't notice it, they're watching me.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that I can get up at 5 a.m. I can go out, run for an hour and a half, be home while they're, right before they wake up, help them pack their lunches, help them go to school. And they look at Dad and they're like, Dad does, he's doing a hard thing. We can do that too. And it's a great example, just like Omar said, about how we can't pour into our family, we can't pour into our job, our friends, unless our cup is full. And running is such a mentally stimulating thing for me, as well as physically. I have a group of guys that I run with in the morning, and we talk about life's problems. We pray for each other. We go through these things, this process. We don't listen to a lot of podcasts or music. I've joked with you about that, but yeah, it's such a good way to connect with people, build relationships, and when you do that, you can fill up that cup so that you can pour into other people.
Well, like today, I was genuinely towards the end emotional. I haven't told you this yet.
No.
Like these guys,
Yeah.
I mean,
When you were
Justin
finishing
and
the
Corey,
race, you're saying.
just I felt like I felt really grateful.
Yeah.
Like, man, you see so much out there. People coming by in wheelchairs and all of it. Like the fact that we get to run,
Correct.
the fact that we get to be out there. The funny story, one time on one of our runs, we're at my house at 5:30 in the morning. It's like a big crew of us. We run a lot, and Justin was there. This is my favorite Justin story.
This is good.
It's like there's like 9 of us. And we always kick off our runs like at 5:30 early. It's like, hey, someone pray. I'm like, Justin, pray. And Justin's like, yeah, absolutely. Justin's from Canada, background's in hockey. He's coached at the NHL level. He's the best. And he's like, absolutely. He starts praying. He's like, God, we thank you so much that we're here in Miami, that our legs are working. We're so grateful that today we get to be out here and we can just, Lord, I'm just thankful we can have our shirts off and we can just run for your glory. God, thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. I was like, thanks, Justin.
That's real gratitude.
I was like, thanks, Justin. Hey, girls, let's go ahead and keep the shirts on. Just fully forgot there's like 4 girls in the circle with us. It's classic though, bro. Classic. But like something about the shared suffering with a community of people doing it, man, that carried me today. Like I'm not super happy with my time, although I was hurt. I keep saying that.
Injured, we get it.
I was injured, haven't
Your
ran
little
a while.
foot.
Bro, you're really going to have to make a better improvement next year.
I might have to. Yeah. But man, we got it done. But I wouldn't have got it done without you guys. And Justin, maybe just for a moment, just talk about like what that was like for you in terms of just running with some brothers and being out there together and why that's important.
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think I would have finished had it not been for the both of you. I mean, you start to, when you start to suffer and you start to go through the hard things.
Yes.
And let's put this into context because some of the listeners, whether they have a desire to run a marathon or not, let's just put a hard thing in terms of life. And if you're going, for me, as I was going and running, my hips were barking at around mile 16. All of a sudden you got the heat that now piles on. And I just had a word the whole time as I was going internal on how I was feeling. I was like, this isn't your race. This isn't your race.
Come on.
This isn't your race. This isn't your race. And I would look at you and I'd keep going. I'd look at you and I'd keep going. I'd look at the person in the wheelchair who's spinning themselves along like next to us and I'm like, let's go. Like, this isn't your race. Like, just keep going. And it was the brotherhood that we had that we're like locking arms and we're going to get this done. Like, it's not a question. It's not a question of if we're going to finish. It's just how are we going to go forward and do this together to cross that finish line. And I think that's just the thing about doing hard things together in life with other people and in community, because if you're going to do something great in this world,
Come on.
be prepared.
That's right.
To come against hardships. Be prepared to come against challenges.
Right.
Be prepared to come against obstacles, because that's what tip of the spear people do. That's what impact mountain movers do, is they're going to have to come against resistance in order to grow to the ability in which they can fulfill what they're called to.
And keep going when they hit that, because I don't know about you guys, but I was hitting some walls, like
Tell me something.
mile 16 was rough.
Testify.
Mile
Did you ever cry
18,
out there?
a few tears came out of my eyes for sure.
Corey was like calling people out there. Corey's like calling his wife, like, "Hey, babe, yeah, we're gonna ride around here." Like, "Hey, go ahead and get me some Chick-fil-A on the way
This
out."
was
I'm
a
like, "Dude."
stroll in the.
He wasn't meaning to, but he was discouraging you greatly.
Although I want to ask Corey a question, because like when you're running at a, what'd you say, 609, 659, 609?
609, yeah.
When you're running at a 609 pace and you all of a sudden start to double it, there's a massive change in your gait, in the speed in which you're running, in the time of which you're now putting like time under tension and impact on your body. Like how that had to be, as well as like mentally taxing for you to actually not just go, but to sit back. There had to be like some difficult physical things that you felt that maybe you don't feel when you go and do your own runs in a different way.
You might have just ruined your entire running career for us. We appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. This was a big deal to me, man. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, man. I did it for you, bro. I did, and I got to
It's like a batter who like changes up his swing. And it's like, you don't do that, man.
I loved every minute of it, hanging with you guys. But you're right. I mean, it does change. I probably took a lot more steps than I normally would in a marathon. And
where are we at?
You know, I think we're at about 56,000. We're
56,000.
We're going to be about 65 by the end of the day. But yeah, it's definitely different. And the good thing is, all systems are go. I've kind of the last couple hours checked everything out, and I feel pretty good. So I'm thankful for that. But it's definitely different when you've been training one way and you come in and do something do something the right opposite, or double your speed. But it's been good so far physically. So don't jinx it anymore. Talking about it.
I love it.
I think something that Justin said that is interesting is he said shared struggle. I think there's a term right now that's floating around, which is a true term in certain instances, of course, which is trauma bonding. I think there's trauma bonding where it's an unhealthy circumstance and setting that there's a group of people in, and they bond over that trauma, that abuse, whatever that is. But not everything that you experience in a group of people is trauma bonding. Some of it is shared struggle, which is intentional to grow your capacity.
That's good.
And what I think is interesting is, last night you're like, you know what, we're gonna run the marathon together, but I'm not gonna run it alone. So I'm just gonna start putting groups of people together. Last night,
Dude, I was up
12 of us got a space in downtown Miami, so we don't have to drive in. We're sleeping on couches, air mattresses, grown men in there, getting like 5-6 hours of sleep. Would probably been more comfortable to sleep in our bed, but there's something about being together. And what I also find it's interesting what you said. Maybe some of us finished because of the other person, but some of us may not have started the race if it wasn't for other people.
That's good.
And I'm even thinking about last night. You can feel we're having a good time, but there's some angst. You know, it's something big
Nervous
is coming
energy.
the next day. People are nervous. Am I going to hit my goal? Am I going to make it? Am I going to get hurt? I think that goes to all spheres of life. I have a big meeting tomorrow. I'm up for a promotion. I got something going, and I think sometimes when we don't have people to share that struggle we're going with, we don't even start, and we definitely don't finish.
Totally.
Very good.
And I think if we can just speak directly to men. There's a bunch of men up here.
Right.
I'm grateful for the men in my life, and I think we're really called to help encourage men. I know lots of people listen to the podcast and watch on YouTube, and we're grateful for that. But like, speaking directly to men right now, we live in America, most of us that are watching this, and what an awesome, awesome place. Like, what an amazing, amazing place. And we are so blessed, like so blessed. And I think if you're not careful, you will go through life only putting yourself into comfortable situations. But if you're really going to become a mature man, if you're really going to grow, you actually have to subject yourself to hard times. You have to do hard things. And maybe the life that you were born into isn't hard. All right, well, then you got to go find something hard, because it's when you get uncomfortable that you get stronger and that you grow. And so many of us don't even know how big our capacity is because nothing's actually challenged us. I like that quote. Maybe you've heard it before. I think it's powerful. I might mess it up, but it's hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make soft men. Soft men make bad times.
Yep.
And I was raised in some
Very
good
good.
times, but I don't want to become a soft man, and I certainly don't want to create bad times. I want to do what I can
great.
to actually put myself into something more difficult. And I just think a healthy habit as a man I love the sauna. I love the cold plunge. These are all just little things that I want to do on a daily basis that are uncomfortable. I don't like running, bro. I want to grow in liking running because I want to actually get myself stronger, and I want to be a better man. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better friend. And believe it or not, I can actually connect those results into things like running a marathon.
Right.
Right. And what's cool to see when you study those things like the cold plunge, the sauna, running, those very uncomfortable things are actually really good for you. They make you a much healthier person. You live longer. You're happier when you do uncomfortable things. So I think often people, they run towards comfort. They run towards nerfing their worlds, that there's no discomfort, nothing bothers me. Chasing happiness, and it's a negative feedback loop. They're chasing comfort and it doesn't come back to them. You know?
Well, it's chasing pleasure too, right?
Yeah.
Like pleasure becomes very, very fleeting and short-lived and never produces the strength that you need for the future. I think, Justin, I don't know how much you're willing to share right now, but just even some of your story about how you grew up and your journey of health and now the mission that you're on, it's impacted my life. It's inspired me. Maybe just share a little bit about it, just in terms of some of the revelations you've had on it.
Yeah, I mean, for me as like a young kid growing up in Canada, hockey was the biggest thing for me, and at issues that took the habits that I knew were healthy, and I was scared of them because I didn't want to go back to the fat kid that was made fun of, and behaved in a certain way that actually held me back from stepping into what was there. And it was this addictive behavior pattern that I actually had to heal internally first. I had to figure out how to love this guy. I had to figure out how to get rid of a lot of these trauma sets that that I had experienced that continued to stick with me. But in going through that, in hitting them face on, was able to take ownership of these habits and behaviors and put them into more of a healthy lens, and a lens that allowed me to grow, a lens that allowed me to grow as not just a person, but as a man. And being able to now fully wrap myself up in that and understand that every behavior that you have, every habit that you have, is simply a vote of the future person that you want to become. And the outcomes that you're realizing in your life are simply a byproduct and a lagging effect of the habits and behaviors that you are engaging in consistently. And so if you don't like where you're at, if you don't like what's actually happening, don't blame your circumstance, don't blame the situation. Look internally at, like, what am I doing consistently? What habits and behaviors am I leaning into? And where do we need to create some change? Because at the end of the day, and I think this sums up this component of this really well, of what we've done today, is anybody can start.
Very good.
But champions finish.
Very good.
And when you have a championship mentality, you make decisions based off of conviction and commitments, not based upon convenience and feelings. And we have to really come back to, what are you convicted on? And I don't think a lot of us sometimes know what we're convicted on. And we don't have others that hold us accountable. We don't have others that we have commitments to. And like, there was no chance I was not going to finish. There was no way I was not going to let you not run or not finish. There was no way that, I mean, Corey was pulling us across. There was literally no way this guy wasn't finishing. But but here's the cool thing, and I think this is overlooked in all of. This is just an epiphany that's hitting me right now. Do you realize that every person who started within our group completed what they set out to do?
Very good.
And it was not because they didn't show up at the finish line or the start line by themselves. They didn't sleep by themselves the night before, like in their own home and like doing their own thing. We were together in community. We were together with a commitment that we had, convicted on why we were doing it. And we locked arms together, and everybody found success at the end of the day.
It's incredible. I think something that you're saying that's like really, really interesting to me, just because, you know, you just mentioned that you struggled with anorexia for 5 years. It's wild to me. I think there's obviously connotations with certain things that many times when we hear the word anorexia, we tend to think more about that being a disorder or an issue that women face. You're one of the most masculine, strong, massive, athletic dudes I've ever met. You've played professional sports. Today you share in so many of the fitness spaces, coaching people. Can you maybe just share a little bit more about, like, when you say anorexic, what are we talking about here? Like, and as a man growing up, like how you even got there?
Yeah, so a lot of it, to be honest with you, it was highly obsessive and addictive behaviors. And I'll tell a couple of stories, but it was my dad actually took a year off of work to try to prepare food for me, to try to help coach me through it.
How old were you?
I was 14. And I wasn't eating. I'd go to school early and start swimming. I would run between classes. I would do 10, 15 squats at my locker before I could pick my books up. I would run up and down the stairs 3 times before I was allowed to sit at the dinner table. I would sleep naked in the basement in the winter with a window open, so it was like a constant cold thing. I would go in the cold shower, I'd come back out, and I think a lot of it was, and I still remember going to the doctor, and they were like, "You're hurting yourself," and I'm like, "No, I'm earning what's happening." And it was this desire to suffer without, and I think it was like this self-beating thing out of a deep fear of not being enough, not being liked, and being teased. And it obviously came along with a lot of depression. It came along with a lot of different things, but constant exercise throughout the day, from swimming in the morning to any breaks I had in the day. I was on the elliptical to still playing AAA hockey at the time.
What did your weight get? How low were you?
Yeah, so at 14, I was about 140 pounds, and by 15, I was 98.
Oh my.
And it was, my parents took me to every doctor, and I kept saying, I'm not sick.
98 pounds.
But a lot of it came back to just how I saw myself. And I think just feeling not worthy of doing the right thing. And I'll come back to that sense of fear that was there. I'll never forget the feeling that I would have in my legs. I almost had like an out-of-body experience anytime I was playing hockey, because I didn't have the energy to actually do what I wanted to do. And we would skate at the end, like conditioning skates, for the last 10, 15 minutes. And all I remember is a 15-year-old kid just sobbing behind my mask because I was exhausted. I had nothing left. And it was... It was God that ultimately pulled me out of this. And
yeah, how did you get free?
So there was a coach that coached me at 12 years old, and he again, I went into a hockey academy at 16, and he saw me walk in the door, and he looked at me, and then he looked away, and then all of a sudden his like head snapped back. He was like, "Justin," and I was like, "Hey, Carl, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh," like startled to a level of like, "Wow. Your skin and bones, you look unhealthy." And I didn't get into this point, but I still remember coming up the stairs when I was 16 years old, and my mom, her jaw dropped, and my face was turning yellow, my kidneys were shutting down, my liver was shutting down. It was a dark time in my life. And Carl just took me under his wing and really taught me the impacts of what my behaviors were, and what I was going through, and how I was, again, the big thing was, it wasn't something that was just affecting me anymore. It was starting to affect my household. It was starting to affect my sister. It was starting to affect my parents. It was starting to affect the people around me. And there overnight in terms of dropping whatever it was, 55, 60 pounds, I felt that I could gain it all back overnight. And learning the practice of patience, learning the practice of process, learning the practice of consistency compounds were all lessons that I take out of that in such a powerful way that I think allows me to see the health and wellness industry differently, health, wellness, performance industry differently, especially because I think nowadays we take a bottom-up approach, is what I call it. It's the physical performance side first from a area of vanity. You have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain weight, you have to have the six-pack abs, which continues to erode us or emotionally at our heart. It creates anxiety, it creates fear, it creates overwhelm, which continues to decay the mind. I'm not good enough, I'm not far enough along, I'm not consistent enough, I'll never get there, which only separates us spiritually from what it is that we're called to. But if we connect to our calling first, if we connect spiritually first to what God has called us to, what He's created us to, it ultimately restores and redeems our mind to know I am exactly where I need to be. I just need to consistently show up. God has got me covered. I'm good enough. I'm far enough along, which then purifies our heart to give us confidence, to give us staying power, to give us that level of deep conviction as to what we're doing. And then at that point, we know physically what habits, what behaviors we should actually lean into and be consistent within.
So good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think for me, what excites me is people watching you and hearing you, seeing you today. I think you're a picture of strength, but what's so powerful is you being so open to share from those areas of darkness, from those areas of pain. Like, one of the coolest things I think men can do is be vulnerable with their insecurities, their weak moments, because soon as we take our pain and share with other people, it always becomes their medicine. It always becomes healing for other people. Bible says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, the work that Jesus did, and the word of our testimony, that like overcoming and moving forward is what you just did right there. And thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Yeah, I think today, number one, thank you. I was finishing the race, and like I said, like my knees are hurting. So I like Google really quick, like my symptoms, because none of you guys are dealing with the same symptoms.
While you were running or after?
After, immediately after, trying to get relief.
ChatGPT, what the heck's going on with my knees?
What is happening? And immediately it says a common occurrence in people that overexert themselves when running or doing strenuous exercise. And I was just thinking immediately, like, man, if I don't go to another resource outside of maybe the people that are in my small circle, because none of you guys are experiencing that, I can think really quickly, I'm dealing with this alone.
Very good.
But in reality, as men, as women, as we begin to share what God is dealing with us in, what we're going through, the struggles that we have, I think so oftentimes somebody's going, yeah, I've dealt with that too. This is how I found healing. Yeah, I've dealt with that too. This is how I've gotten through that. Yeah. So I think what you're saying is so true. It's number one, how we receive forgiveness. It's how we receive healing. I think what you're saying, Justin, is it's not just when our body gets to a point that it's not where it should be that we might not have healing. There's a lot of people with very healthy bodies with mindsets still of their bodies that are extremely unhealthy. So just because the exterior fruit, just because of maybe an outside appearance, that might be the very thing that you're trying to fill the hole with. I'm good enough. I'm worthy. And I think for me today, I was just reminded, I'm out there with like 20,000 people. Yeah, my struggle is real, but other people are going through this struggle too.
It's very, very good. I think Paul warns us about this too, in terms of just vanity and not giving over to it. And like, it's funny how something that can be healthy can become an idol.
Yes.
Something that's good can all of a sudden take the ultimate place of trying to take the place of God and trusting and surrendering and believing His timeline. Patience is massive.
And I think that's one of the things when you talk about decision and starting, it's so important, is because what is that decision made out of that you're going to implement that discipline?
Yep.
So I want to implement a discipline to work out, to run. Why? Because I want to steward my body, or I want to achieve this thing.
If your order's out of order, when you start, your result will be out of order.
Very good.
There you go.
I think that speaking of sharing your struggle, being vulnerable, the story of this run for us has been your foot.
Yeah.
And I was with you when
I
you
love
heard the story. You know, our kids were playing together and you get an email about your MRI and you read it to me and I'm like, oh dang, it's stress fracture is pretty serious.
Yeah.
And like we do, you know, we reached out to people. We actually posted it on Instagram and your caption was like, hey guys, this is what's happening. I'd love to hear some thoughts. Can you just talk about the different voices that you heard in
Yes.
that moment? I mean, when you go back and
Completely
read the
contradictory.
comments, people were going at you and they were so confident, like, don't let your ego get in the way. This is the Lord talking to you.
It's a picture of the world today, man.
Yeah.
With polarizing times out there.
You better not run
You
this
couldn't
race.
have more conflicting. It was like either like, of course you got to do
Yeah.
this. God's with you. And the other was like, if you do this, you are a sinner
Yeah.
and you're foolish. I'm like, I don't
It
know.
was
If I listen to
insane.
the crowd, we're
you
done.
listen to Nick Bear ultimately, but
Yeah, thank you, Nick Bear. We love you, my mentor.
So
You're
talk about, I mean, in this moment, but also as a leader at such a high level, when you're getting all these opinions coming at you and you ultimately decided to run, you know, and go for it. I know you spoke with your wife, DC, and came to a decision that you guys felt comfortable. You prayed, but that was tough. And I don't know what I would have done in that
Well,
moment.
I think a great leadership principle that we have to all remember, and it's really simple. When you decide, you always divide.
Yep.
Wow.
Leaders make decisions, and I'm not trying to say this is a leadership decision. I'm just going, whatever decision you make, there's never always like one that's going to make everybody happy. In this case, I think a really dangerous place to live your life is unclear. Like there's moments that you're hesitant, you don't know what the answer is, but you have to come up.
So true.
Indecision is a decision, and at
good.
some point you have to actually bring some clarity to the thing because clarity produces confidence. And really, for me, I'm not going to listen to Instagram comments. I'm not going there. We had a great podiatrist. We've got a great guy in our church, Donovan, who's an awesome podiatrist. But talking with Justin, who does a lot of rehab with athletes, his background, talking with Corey, it was never like 100% decided. That we were going week by week and watching the progress take place. We weren't trying to do something dangerous or reckless, but there certainly was a risk. Today, my foot actually felt good. It's this old heart, bro, that hasn't ran for 5 weeks. My average heart rate was 175. I was in my zone 5 for 75% of this run.
crazy.
I'm like, sheesh. But
Pretty
my foot
impressive
actually felt good, you know?
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it's like you got to go to the trusted voices and you got to make a decision. And sometimes we make decisions and they're wrong. You own that. And sometimes you make a decision and it's right and you own that. We were joking the whole time. I was like, hey, no matter what, there's going to be sermon content out of here.
Yeah.
Either one, we're going to talk about perseverance and finishing that race strong, or two, what happens when you're a fool and how you get hurt. Either way, though, I saw it as a win-win.
Thank God it was the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
There was so many people that were scared for you and like, are you going to break your foot? And speaking to you in ways that I was like, whoa, like you have a lot of confidence here in this moment, but I'm glad you made it through and thank God your foot's okay.
Absolutely.
I got to honor you though, because, and I think this is another coachable, teachable moment for everyone out there, is because you, having been really in-depthly like working with you for 5 weeks, like you are coachable. Like you are coachable. And the voices that you were listening to, that you were allowing to speak in, you did what was asked and you showed up and you executed and you were disciplined. It would have been very easy to go, I'm just going to ask opinions and then just do my own thing anyways, and then say, nothing works. Yeah. And so when there's something or somebody or people that speak into your life and you then take that and you are consistent and take it to heart and are coachable, are able to learn off of that, like that's like honor to you for that, because that is a
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
big thing.
I'm all learning. I think maybe we just go around the one lesson that you feel like you walk away with. For me, as you're saying that, running a marathon is one of the most humbling things I've done in a long time. And I think if you're not coachable, if you don't get some other voices around you, if you don't train, you're going to find yourself not getting the result that you want. And it was much things you appreciate tend to get better. The things you depreciate tend to get worse. And I'm just walking away from this race just so thankful, like Justin's prayer, that we're able to out here, my body's healthy enough to get out and run and go for it. And I was humbled today. Like, not humbled in a way that led to disaster, humbled in a way that the Bible says, humble yourself before the Lord and he will lift you up. Yeah. We came out and we finished it, and I'm so grateful for you guys. But my big lesson was, pride comes before the fall. This thing is a beast. We got a dog in us, but as I've humbled myself, got people around me, we got the result we were looking for.
Yeah, I'd say complete preparation. Also, any preparation. I think my mind was right. I think, honestly, my breath held up better than I thought it would, but my legs weren't ready. And I just think that whenever we're going into anything in life, it was just a reminder, if just one part of your life, parts of your life are ready, but you're not completely prepared for that next season, it's going to get exposed. I got exposed today out there.
Rich, I would agree with you that a marathon is very humbling, but any race can be humbling if you're not ready for it. And I tell everyone that's starting to run, you have to respect the marathon.
Yep.
If you're going to go try it, you need to be consistent. You need to be all in, just like you have been, Omar. But you have to be all in. You have to be consistent, or else you will be unprepared and you won't be ready. And anyone can, just to the listeners out there, anyone can start running. I started running right before I turned 40, just like Rich did, and I was consistent. I went out and did it every day. I had a coach, and I was following a plan. And the great thing I love about the sport is that you will see progress quickly. No matter what level you're at, you will see progress quickly. And I think that's a great thing for people to hear, because it's fun to see progress. It's fun to see yourself get better at something. And this naturally does. Humans, as God made us, we are made to run. I mean, you can go back in history and look at all the different stages and all these different centuries, but humans were made to run, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful sport, and I was proud to be out there with you guys today. I loved every minute
You're
of it.
the best. Omar, biggest lesson today.
Yeah, man, for me, I'm so thankful for the last 18 weeks. Corey said last night, the race is the reward, and that hit me right here. The last 18 weeks of waking up early, running, has gotten us closer together. You know, you, me, Bijan, all the guys, Justin. And it's amazing to see where we started and where we are now. My pace when we first started training was like a little girl. I was running, you know, when guys say, you run like a girl, that they were talking about me. My pace was so slow, and it's still slow. I'm the slowest of the group. That's okay. I finished, right?
Yes.
Right.
But
looking for an agreement, right?
right, Corey?
That's right.
Okay. But
Fast girls, though.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so that's true. But what was amazing was over these 18 weeks, how the progression started to grow and my pace started to get faster just from being consistent. And I know so many people that they try and go to the gym and they're just like, oh, it didn't work for me. I didn't see results. I think so often they give up too soon.
Preach.
Good.
And they give up before. It takes a long time to see your body change, to see your strength grow. I've been doing CrossFit for like 3 or 4 years now, and it takes a long time to put an extra plate on there and feel comfortable and not to die under the weight of that burden and do the exercise. So not giving up through the preparation, but enduring the preparation has gotten me from where I was to my pace a little bit faster now. So I would just encourage people out there, like, not to give up, to keep being consistent, and you just show up. You're gonna eventually see results, but don't give up before that happens. Stick to the healthy habits, and you'll see yourself looking back saying, wow, look at where I came from. It's pretty amazing. I never thought I would run a full marathon, but here we are, a couple hours
Let's go, bro.
removed.
Justin, final words.
I mean, everything
Lesson.
the guy said, I love it. It's, but not to underestimate anything. Don't overestimate anything, but respect it. Like, respect whatever it is that you're going after.
Very good.
While also having tip of the spear people around you. It matters who you surround yourself with. It matters who you develop relationship with. It matters who you do life with. And they often second is who you decide your friends or your family by choice is. And so making sure that you're having tip of the spear people around you, making sure you're having people who are not afraid to hold you accountable, are not afraid to help you rise up when you're down, are not afraid to call you out on something that maybe you're not acting in accordance with. We talk about consistency and all these things from habits and behaviors, but if we're not being held accountable, how are we supposed to actually find that next level? How are we actually supposed to get into that space? And so by being willing to take ownership of who we surround ourselves with, who we put into our lives, and who we choose to spend time with, that's a big affirmation for me today to continue to lean into.
It's beautiful. I love you guys so much. Thank you for today. I will never, ever forget it. We're so glad that you're joining us today. Do us a favor, like it, subscribe it, share it. We're right here on the Mature Me podcast. We're going to be dropping new content week by week, but we're grateful for all of you. Leave us a comment. Let us know your fitness routine. Let us know if you have any questions. We're going to keep talking all things fitness here, but we're grateful for every one of you. We love you. Don't just grow old, grow up. We love y'all.
Let's go.